I was recently accused of being AI, and I was like, I promise I'm not using AI.
Even the best solutions out there in the world, Perplexity, one of the leading AI solutions out there, still picks up on a concept and won't drop it, even though I'm telling it to leave it alone. It's mad.
And overall, we've just found that our team has been significantly more efficient through the use of AI on the forefront. AI is not just plug, play, and go. Like you have to audit it. You have to have somebody checking it and correcting it.
I think that there's a good proportion of people who believe that because it's inherently good at language, it solves all of your chatbot problems.
While I was skeptical at first, seeing the level of control that you can have with AI has kind of brought me full circle into being an AI lover in most cases. Everybody was a little bit scared of, did we really want AI having customer conversations? I wish I would have advocated for it even sooner. And I wish I would have thought through all of the positive things that AI was going to bring to the customer journey.
This episode of VUX World is brought to you by NLX. NLX is the enterprise conversational AI platform that is powering some of the most loved brands across the globe and helping them automate their AI initiatives far more effectively than they would do otherwise. They've got a whole range of clients doing a whole bunch of interesting use cases across all different types of channels. One feature I love is Voice Plus, which essentially enables you to have a omni-channel experience. You begin with a phone call. If the use case is better served on a website, for example, you get a text message. You're on the website on your mobile, but the phone's still hooked up, and you can ask questions and the AI assistant will talk you through the process. It's a great example of how you can leverage the benefits of digital with the benefits of AI. Far more faster time to market, far less effort in terms of integrations and all that kind of stuff. And a really great example of how, as Andre Papantia, the CEO, always says, start with the problem, design the best solution, and work back from there. And I think Voice Plus is a great example of doing that. If you're interested in NLX, the platform, and how to leverage that technology in your business, then visit nlx.ai. That is nlx.ai. Shout out to NLX for sponsoring VUX World. The following is a conversation with Jordan Geske, who is the head of customer experience at True Classic. You might have come across True Classic if you do listen to podcasts, because True Classic have been advertising pretty heavily across all of your favorite podcast players in recent years. It is the men's clothing provider that apparently has some of the best fitting t-shirts that you will ever wear. This isn't an advert for True Classic. This is just apparently what the situation is. Anyway, we speak to Jordan on this episode of VUX World about how True Classic is using AI, unsurprisingly, given that this is a podcast about AI and the benefits thereof and how to leverage it. And that's what this conversation is. Jordan shares with us her journey into exploring AI solutions at True Classic, and we talk about how they have upgraded their NLU-based chatbot to a generative AI chatbot, how it's handling loads and loads of help desk requests. It's integrated into stock management and product details and all kinds of different tools, automating all kinds of different things. It's a chatbot. They've got it running in emails. They've got it running over the phone. And it is a real, true, great story about how, you can embrace these technologies, get great results, and the lessons learned through doing it. Big business benefits, payroll reductions, increased inefficiencies, increased inefficiencies, not increased inefficiencies, and also increased satisfaction. And so this is a great story from beginning to end of where generative AI is useful, how you can incorporate it, the benefits that you can see, and how True Classic have gone about it. Without further ado, this is Jordan Geske of True Classic on VUX World. All right, Jordan Geske, welcome to VUX World. How on earth are you today?
I'm great. Thank you for having me today.
Nice one. I appreciate it. Very much appreciated. Always keen to hear, people's AI journeys and what's working well, what's not working well, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, really, really appreciate you spending some time.
Yes, gotta love AI.
You got to love AI. You do. It seems to be everywhere now. I don't know if it's the same for you, but I think it's the same for everyone now. That you can't turn on the TV. It used to be that you can't open LinkedIn without hearing about AI, and I think that might just be because LinkedIn, very specifically curates things that it thinks that I might be interested in, which obviously I am. But now you can't turn on the TV without hearing about AI. You can't go on any social media website without hearing about AI. You can search for anything on Google, and the top result is AI generated. And so it's kind of like AI seems to be absolutely everywhere right now.
Yeah, it is. I believe it is everywhere. I was recently accused of myself being AI, and I was like, I promise I'm not using AI. I'm not even using AI to help me write my emails. But I think so many people are aware of AI being everywhere that it's causing people to be skeptical in some cases.
Yes, yes. And I think that if people are skeptical in their day to day life, then surely at the same time, those same people work within a business most of the time, or at least some of them. And therefore, that skepticism perhaps can also transfer into the business world. And so, have you found that a little bit with True Classic? Are there some skeptics in the organization? Were you a skeptic originally? Like, how does the world of people's skepticism translate into your world? Does that exist at all?
Yeah, I think until you can really get it in your hands and actually have the time and the training on what AI can do, what the limitations are, and realizing that you are in full control. Like you are the one who is training your AI model in most businesses, that there is still a level of control, even though it can seem scary and it can seem overwhelming or like it's going to take over. At the end of the day, I get to put in the guidelines that I want our AI to follow. I get to audit AI and tell it when it's maybe doing something wrong or it's not aligned with our business voice and things like that. So while I was skeptical at first, seeing the level of control that you can have with AI has kind of brought me full circle into being an AI lover in most cases.
Interesting. Most cases. In which cases are you not yet an AI lover?
So I don't think it has anything to do with like where I am or the AI that I'm using, but when I go to other businesses and I'm trying to get support or help and the AI is just kind of hallucinating or not getting me to the right place quick enough, I personally get annoyed and I want to be like, can I help you with your AI? Can I help you set this up correctly? Like, can I help you with your rule sets to make it a smoother process for them?
Yeah, yeah. I think there's been definitely, and this was before generative AI, but I think generative AI has exasperated some of this stuff or enhanced it, which is that the world used to be full of really, really bad chatbots, and it still is in part. Um, Not because the old technology with NLUs was bad. It's just because a lot of them were really, really poorly designed. And then generative AI comes around, and I think that there's a good proportion of people who believe that because it's inherently good at language, it solves all of your chatbot problems. But then what you end up with is just really bad generative AI bots that just still kind of they have got different nuances, but still ineffective in some cases.
Yeah, I agree. I think sometimes you can't even tell that it's AI until it starts to repeat itself. That's like one of the biggest offenders that I see is it tries to give you an answer. And then when you tell it, hey, that's not what I was asking, it just keeps kind of repeating the same answer with maybe a couple of different words in there because you can tell it's just like rerunning it and then spitting out the same thing.
Mm.
And then you're like, oh, no, that's not right. So it reruns it again, thinking that the additional words are going to fix that.
Yeah, I had a case this morning where I was using Perplexity, and I was trying to find. I was at an event in March. It was the Cognigy Nexus event, and I recall somebody sharing a really great chart that showed that over time, businesses that are kind of like looking for technology solutions used to do their own research, come up with their own plan, and essentially go out to market to find the technology solution to meet their needs. But over time, what's happened is businesses have begun to think, well, as long as I understand the business problem, then I'll go out and speak to different companies, and they should tell me what the solution is. And so it's almost like there's this kind of like switch essentially in how people and businesses are buying technology, wherein they're relying on technology providers more to help them define the solution, whereas before they used to define the solution themselves. And there's a really good chart that shows how this has changed over time, and I could not for the life of me think about where I've seen this chart. Whose chart is it? And so I thought I'd use Perplexity to get it to just go and find it. And the prompt I initially used was something to do, I must have used the term research. So companies used to do their own research to figure out what solutions they need, and now they're relying more on technology providers. And it just went on this path of just always talking about research and development, R&D. Everything was R&D. So I had to correct it in my next prompt. Like, no, forget about research and development. I meant research as in they go and do their own research in what solution they need, etc., etc. But it just wouldn't leave it alone. It just, everything kept on research and development, research and development. I was like, oh my God. In the end, actually, I thought it's Metagy who had it, because in the end, it turns out I took a photograph of it. But it just, you were saying in terms of it just repeats itself. Even the best solutions out there in the world, Perplexity, one of the leading AI solutions out there, still picks up on a concept and won't drop it, even though I'm telling it to leave it alone. It's mad.
Yeah. And that's what I think that's the part of AI that I still get annoyed by. So I'm like, just leave it, drop it. I said no. I said it's okay. Let's move on. You're still bringing it up.
Yeah. So tell us a bit about True Classic then, because and your role there, obviously, I think a lot of I first come across True Classic, and I don't remember the specific podcast, but you guys and girls have gone on a bit of a podcasting rampage, I would say, and it's like, sponsoring loads of different podcasts, and it's obviously working, because that's my introduction to True Classic, was through hearing it on various podcasts. But for those who might not have listened to those podcasts, who might not be aware of True Classic, maybe they haven't come across it just yet, tell us a little bit about what True Classic is and your role within it.
So True Classic is currently a men's apparel brand, and we dress men from head to toe. We have hats, socks, underwear, shirts, everything you can imagine. And we just want to make our clientele and customers look good and feel good. So t-shirts that fit the right way. We want to make sure that everybody out there finds something at True Classic that they just absolutely love. And then I am the head of customer experience at True Classic. So I oversee everything customer journey and everything that falls under the umbrella of customer success.
Wicked. And you mentioned a little bit ago that you love AI. Where at least in some cases, where did that love begin? When did you first kind of take an interest in AI?
About 2.5 years ago, we were really getting introduced to AI in the customer service space. It was kind of something everybody was a little bit scared of. Did we really want AI having customer conversations? And then we all, as an industry, started thinking through like the cost savings that it could have through your simple questions like, how do I return this item? Having AI be able to spit out a more conversational response versus just, oh, here's the link, which was the type of automation that we were seeing. It wasn't necessarily AI, but it was automation. And so I started to explore different vendors and just really see what AI and customer service had and where it was going. And that was kind of my first introduction to AI. So we did launch generative AI in our chatbot about 2 years ago. And then we've been able to refine it and train it and build it. And we've seen great success in cutting our payroll down. We've seen great success in our customer satisfaction and our response and resolution times becoming quicker, and overall just creating a more positive experience for our customers.
Wicked. That sounds great. You mentioned there that you had some other types of automation before that were doing things like where is my order and stuff like that. And then you said that the goal of AI is that those interactions would be more conversational. What is it about that kind of modality that's important? What is it about being conversational specifically that is so important?
I think it gives customers a sense of security. So what we were finding is that when we were just using general automation, it was attempting to pick up on keywords like, I want to return my shirts. And then it would just spit out a pre-typed response. Where if with generative AI and it's more conversational, it's creating a sense of security for the customers. They actually get to feel like they're talking to somebody and not like they're just getting a bot. And I think they respond better to that.
Right. And do you think that, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but is that because there is this assumption, I suppose is the word I would use, that most businesses have, especially at the very outset of their AI journey, which is that people just want to talk to people?
Yes. People definitely just want to talk to people. So by creating that more conversational AI, it's giving the sense of a person.
Interesting. And we'll come on, I'd love to get more detail into the specifics and stuff like that, but is there anything in particular during this process that you have learned is a recipe for success in terms of making those conversations more human-like?
Yes, you have to take the feedback that you are getting. So I think a lot of times we like to just be like, oh, AI is perfect, it's great. But in reality, there's definitely room for opportunity with all AI. And it's important that you do the digging yourself. So you don't just trust, oh, the AI CSAT is amazing. Have you actually dug into like the negative conversations? Have you actually looked at conversations that maybe customers had a negative interaction, but they didn't respond to the CSAT? And using those cases where it was a negative interaction to train and build your AI up to be even stronger. We have to take into account that just like there's going to be negative interactions with a live human agent, there will be negative interactions with AI. And that's a good point to always be striving for improvement.
Absolutely. What is it that years ago Google found that there is something like 7,000 different ways that you could say that you wanted to set an alarm, and so with all of the variability in language, inevitably different customers are going to have different journeys through that conversation, and not all of them are going to be ideal,
Right. And that's a perfect example because even 2 years ago, AI could not pick up on like a misspelling the way that it can now. So like somebody forgets to add a question mark or somebody misses a letter in a word, it would just fail 2 years ago. It would have to transfer to an agent because it would say it couldn't understand. Now AI is learning or has learned and can pick up on those human errors that we have when we are typing and be able to put it together to get the appropriate response.
Nice. So 2 years ago, then 2.5 years ago, so when you first started looking at more generative solutions, what was that first solution? Was it you were referring to a kind of a more rule-based chatbot or NLU-based chatbot? Was it replacing that? Is that what you did? Well, what was that first solution?
Yeah, so the very first solution that where we are just using automation was just a rule-based solution. It would be keywords, here's keywords, and then here's exactly how you can respond. And that was we did that through our help desk at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And then we found a solution that was more conversational. At first, it was not generative AI. It was just a AI where we would train and we would give it multiple variations of things that it could say, but it was not coming up with those answers on its own.
Mm-hmm.
And this was through a new help desk that we moved to. And then from there, they launched generative AI about 6 months into our starting with them. And then we started using the generative AI, which we would just give it our general FAQs and rule sets. We also would feed it our conversations that our human agents would have so that it could look at those and kind of get a feel for how it was answering tickets. And then it kind of built itself up.
Nice. So the provider that you were already using introduced the Gen AI capabilities and you began using that. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Nice. And so this is a help desk Q&A type of thing. Is it just question answers? Is it doing like retrieving data from anywhere, pulling data into the conversations and stuff like that? Or can you tell us a bit more about the use cases?
Yeah, so it is pulling. We have a couple of different tools for it to use. So we have a tool that links into our Shopify account, and that allows it to be able to pull tracking, to pull order status, to direct it when it comes to returns and exchanges, and as well as the returns and exchanges statuses. We also have tools that allow generative AI to look at our product catalog and help to make product suggestions, size suggestions, because it links into our sizing charts and sizing guides. So it allows the customer to self-serve in many different platforms. We also have it linked to our returns portal. We have it linked to our lost packages portal. So we really try to give it every tool that we would give to our agents as well.
Interesting. And is all of this happening through one interface? This is all a chat kind of widget on the front end. Is that correct or no?
Correct. Yes. Currently, we use just our help desk and we use their AI natively for that currently, but there are many other options and solutions out there as well that we are looking to pair and build our AI up even stronger. So in today's age of AI, a lot of help desks have native AI, but it's not the most amazing. So there are AI like companies that are solely AI who lay on top of those help desks to make it even stronger.
Yeah. I think the limitation with help desks is that they are help desks, and
Right.
let's say you wanted to put something in or over your phone to answer phones for you, or put it in another channel or whatever, and also explore use cases beyond your typical help desk type of things. You'll probably find that your help desk becomes a bit limiting. But I think the good thing, especially with some of the more contemporary AI platforms these days, is that they are orchestration layers that so it's entirely feasible that if your help desk component is actually working really well, you could just treat that as an agent or as a bot in its own right, and have that accessible via this orchestration platform, that when it comes across a question that seems like a help desk question, it goes over to the help desk bot and it'll reuse everything that you've already got there.
Yeah, and we actually are starting to layer AI in on different areas of our site. So we are looking at a PDP AI, so it'll sit on the product page, and then you can ask it sizing questions or things like that. But if it's going to go more towards a customer service question, like how do I return, it's going to transfer it over. So having all those tools connect together to make sure that it's seamless for the customers and that they're not running into a use case of one AI telling them that they have to contact us through a different platform
Yeah.
type of situation. It all has to work together.
Yeah, or one AI not being aware that there's actually another AI that does the thing that they need to do, and it's instead that handing them over to an agent or something like that. Yeah, interesting. So going back to this chat then. So originally it was rule based. You then upgraded it to, it sounds like a machine learning solution you had. You've then upgraded it since to generative AI. The goal of that was for it to be more conversational. Have you got anything you can share with us in terms of the kind of like effectiveness of that, in terms of like, yes, being conversational is great, but surely there must have been some other metrics that you were trying to impact, was there?
So overall, we are trying to impact just our team's efficiency, and by our team having the ability to work on higher level tickets because AI was taking the quote unquote easy stuff. We were able to free up our agents in that light. So we have decreased our payroll by about 25% since starting with generative AI. And then we've also decreased our resolution rates. So we are resolving our tickets about 30% quicker than we were prior to AI. And that's just because AI is able to do the first touches. If it can't solve something, it's able to provide the agent all the context that's already been had so that our agents can quickly finish the resolution. And overall, we've just found that our team has been significantly more efficient through the use of AI on the forefront.
Wicked. And so that's purely just from using the AI on the front end. Do the agents have any access to any AI tools, or that's purely just because the AI has done a good job of, one, automating things, and two, when it can't, handing over to the agent with all of the relevant context?
We do have some AI on the background, but a majority of that is going to come from the front end. On the back end, we have like macro writing assist. We have AI that can allow them to change the tone of voice of something that they've already written, but it does require them to actually pick that and use it versus automatically applying it to everything that they write. So there's an extra step for the agents, but primarily the efficiencies we've seen have come from the front end.
That's really interesting because a lot of companies believe that it is less risky to begin on the back end with the agents and to go through the process of providing the agents tools and give them the things that they can use so they can do the searches on behalf of the customer and all that kind of stuff. Now, I don't want to generalize this because I could be, this might not be a generalization, but typically speaking, I hear that mostly coming from kind of like vendors, technology providers that provide typical or traditional CX software like phone systems, ticketing systems, and those kind of things. It seems to me that those are the kind of people that tend to recommend to go and start by providing your agents tools first and then get that working right and then put it in the front end. I've always been of the mindset that exactly like you're suggesting, start with the front end because that will benefit the agents and the customer because the agents have less volume and less complexity. Maybe it's more complexity depending on what the AI is doing, but you're helping the agents by managing volume and then you're helping the customer by giving self-service. So was there a particular reason? Was it a conscious choice to begin on with front-end automation rather than agent-side automation, or was that just naturally what evolved?
I would say it's a little bit of both. I think that it was really important to me to get the front end up first, similarly to what you were saying. Like that is going to have the biggest impact the quickest because if we can train it, it's going to alleviate some of the stress that the agents are feeling. And it's going to allow them to be able to dig deeper into the types of tickets that they are getting. For me, I'm really passionate about making it as easy as possible for my agents on a day to day. So we have integrated everything our agents could possibly need into the help desk. So we have our Shopify integration. We're integrated with our email provider so they can see what emails that customer has received. We are integrated with our returns. They can see directly there what returns have started. Can we start a return for them? We also are directly integrated with most of our vendors in our help desk. So while AI on the front end came first, we try to just make it really easy for our agents to be able to work from one screen without having to change and move to make them efficient as well. So they haven't necessarily gotten all of the AI on their end, but they have gotten many tools that make it easy for them.
Great, because I think that's half of the problem is using 6 or 7 different systems to get your job done just ends up taking forever, doesn't it? But that's interesting. So was there any, or can you talk us through the kind of internal conversations when going from this machine learning solution to the more generative solution? Because again, in some cases, in some businesses, they perceive generative AI to have an element of risk towards it because it can hallucinate, it can get things wrong, especially if you're giving it access to tools to do certain bits and pieces. Now, you mentioned earlier that you can control it and it's more controllable, and that's certainly the case with many providers now. With the controllability has become a lot better, especially if you can break down what it's doing into component parts and stuff like that. But at the same time, you've got some vendors that will say, well, actually, the more open-ended you can keep it and the less you sort of like be prescriptive, the more creativity it has and the better the effectiveness can be, but obviously the greater the chance of getting something wrong. So can you walk us through a little bit about, when you're going from machine learning based to generative AI based, was there a bit of resistance internally? Did you have to do anything to manage governance and risk around hallucinations and getting things wrong and stuff like that? How did you approach it?
Yeah, so we are a very AI first company. So I almost feel like I was probably a little bit more timid on the generative AI versus the rule based AI simply because of the hallucinations. And I was nervous about how it would be perceived by our customers. Like if it did hallucinate, would that cause a big issue? Like for me, I'm very aware of customers going to other outlets. Like, are they going to go to Twitter and blast us? Are we going to post our screenshots on LinkedIn and talk about how they could do it better? Because that tends to be a big thing in the tech industry is we can do it better. So we're going to blast you and show you. And so I was probably more nervous than like my senior leadership team when it came from going from rule-based to generative AI. And what I learned is you just have to audit. Like those first couple of weeks when we went live, I lived in the AI queue. I was constantly checking its responses. if a response was a hallucination, I would specifically update any rule sets that we had that said, please make sure we are not mentioning competitors and give the examples. Or let's make sure we don't tell customers we are 100% cotton, because we're not for most products 100% cotton. So making sure that I was hands on in the process of generative AI getting up and going. And I think that that can be a common misconception. Like, AI is not just plug, play, and go. Like, you have to audit it. You have to make sure you have somebody checking it and correcting it in order to make it successful for your company. So I was nervous, but it has turned out to be something really great for our teams. It just takes auditing and
Yeah.
making sure that you are constantly working with it.
Yeah. I always say that when you go live with a chatbot of any description or an AI, conversational AI of any description, that going live is day one, because that's when you put it live, that's when you stick it in the seat, and that's when it becomes your employee, basically. And you've got to nurture it and maintain it and improve it over time and stuff like that. And I think that's something that's definitely overlooked. Can you tell us a little bit about what the general upkeep is today? Are you still doing that? Is that still your practice? Is to, go through the transcripts, read some logs? I mean, I always think that's a good practice. But have you got any other things that you do, any other tools that you're using in the general day-to-day?
I think you still need to audit it. Do I think I need to be as hands on as I was originally? No, but I am pulling random transcripts throughout the week just to make sure nothing's going crazy. In addition, I really utilize the AI CSAT. So making sure that if there was a negative interaction, I'm looking through that and seeing, like, what were the opportunities? Was there an opportunity for AI to transfer it? Was it a mistransfer? Did the customer just not enjoy the solution? What was the root cause of any negative CSATs? But also looking at the positives, because a lot of times we get stuck on the negatives. But, like, let's look at those positive conversations and see what our customers have to say about AI and what they're liking about it, and use that to our advantage. In addition, I like to test our AI from the front end. So looking at our most common use case scenarios for AI and just doing selective testing with different wordings and different perspectives and different order numbers to see how it's responding in real time. So we can trust what we're seeing on the back end, also wanting to make sure that we're testing it from a front end perspective as well. And I always ask my team to do the same. So I don't want it to always just be coming from me, but is my customer service team also testing, looking for any bugs, anything of that nature. And then you just always have to make sure you're updating it for any new policies or any new products or any new changes, so that there isn't a lapse in what AI is saying. So I learned this not necessarily the hard way, but we changed our return policy. I forgot to tell AI that we were going from 30 days to 100 days. And so it would still tell people 30 days. And because we had it written in multiple spots and it was pulling from older tickets, I had to make sure that I explicitly updated it to 100 days and explained that this is the reason for the change, so that it caught on quickly.
Yeah, very much so. And that the CSAT example you were given, is that an automated CSAT calculation, or is that customers at the end of a conversation, they will rate their satisfaction?
Yeah, that's at the end of a conversation, they will rate the satisfaction. We also do by customer intent. So maybe they didn't actually rate us negative, but the intent of the overall conversation was not, there were keywords in there that indicated the customer may not have left the conversation happy. So we also review those.
Interesting. And do you have anything within this tool that you're using that will give you a hand in terms of analyzing this stuff at scale? I think those spot checks are absolutely critical, and you've got to do those things. We always recommend that, every Friday, the team spend half an hour just reading transcripts, just so they can.
Yeah.
Yes, it's about kind of catching stuff, but it's also about generally just empathizing with your customers and, familiarizing yourself with the solution and stuff like that. But is there any kind of thing that you have that would allow you to look at things like relevancy and accuracy and those kind of things at a degree of scale beyond the manual spot checks and stuff like that?
So we are currently working with our help desk to build this out. We are also working with an AI specialist that we have here at True Classic to figure out what type of tools we could potentially layer within the help desk to pull that information out, because I do think you can use AI to audit AI
Hmm.
as well if you can give it some sort of rule base. So it's not a current have, but it is something that I plan to have here going into Q4 at a minimum.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's the some of the sort of vendors have that sort of limitation, which is the reporting requirements. Often you've got to get stuff out of the platform, build your own dashboards and stuff, especially if you want to connect it to other bits. Like, I don't know, you might have a journey where you're using an API call and you might want to get the the success response from that API call to say that this has been successful, and that might not necessarily be something you get from the platform. There's lots of different ways that you can do it, but yeah, definitely, I think the measuring of success is an area where we haven't really seen many vendors get right, to be perfectly honest. They all focus a lot on tool providing and giving you the stuff to do the job, and it kind of like falls upon people like yourself and your team to sort of do the manual reviews. There's some companies we had Mark Worden from NatWest Banking Group on recently, big banking group in the UK. They launched a beta with retrieval augmented generation, and they manually reviewed absolutely every single answer. Every single one. It's like that's great, but you kind of need some tools for that in future, because if you start scaling to tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of conversations, it's going to get quite challenging.
Right. And realistically, as much as I would love to be able to review every conversation, it's just not a feasible action. Even reviewing 10% is a pretty lofty goal for the volume that we do. And if you're picking tickets at random, you have no idea. You could be getting all the really good tickets, and there could be some really crappy tickets out there that I don't even realize are out there because I just don't have the ability to read them all.
Yeah, exactly. So we've covered some of the lessons there in terms of ongoing maintenance, definitely some intense period over that initial launch phase of optimization, stuff like that. Are there any other sort of like lessons learned over this process over the last couple of years that you think would be helpful for others to know about?
I would say make sure that when you are vetting a new vendor who is AI based, AI focused, make sure that you're asking the right questions. So it's not just what is your success rate, or can you show me a demo, but like, how are we also protecting our customers? Like, there's a level of safety that we also have to have. Like, if I reach out to a company, how are they verifying that it's me and they're not just giving my information, my order information, my address, all of that out to any Joe Schmo who may be coming in through the help desk trying to get that information? So I think that the safety piece of AI is also something that's very important to make sure that we're asking vendors as we have these calls, these conversations, as these new vendors pop up, because it is so frequently happening. And we don't fully know the power of AI yet. Like, it's still changing, it's still evolving, and it's still growing. So just, I think it's really important that you have those harder conversations as well.
Absolutely. Was there anything over this process that was particularly surprising, unexpected, either positive or negative?
I think just the time it takes to get your AI up and running to the standard that you want, surprised me. I had seen all these commercials, I'd seen all these demos about how great AI is, and I personally did not realize, like, as I mentioned earlier, it's not just a plug and play. You can't just like upload your FAQs and then it's good to go. It requires a lot of additional work in the maintenance side, and I did not realize that. Now, on the flip side, I did not fully anticipate AI to work. 2 years ago, if you asked me, AI would be doing 30% of my tickets, 40% of my tickets, I'd be like, oh, there's no way. Like, people want that human touch, but people have been a lot more accepting of AI than I honestly anticipated. And we have AI in our chat, we have AI in our email, and we have AI in our phones. And we get a really high response rate across all channels. And
In,
that's not something I expected.
Interesting. And did you do anything in particular to accomplish that, or is this just natural adoption given that you just put the tools out there?
So we do give our AI a personality. Our AI has a name. His or her name is Crew, like crew neck t-shirts, but we
Nice.
spell it CRUE. And it's just like that witty play on words. And I think by giving our chatbot a real name and giving our chatbot this witty personality, people are interested in talking to it. Like it's not just like, oh hey, I'm bot A from True Classic. What do you need? Like we really try to make it that conversational and personable, even from a chatbot standpoint.
Interesting. That's a good point because some brands don't do that. Some just stick to the facts and get your job done and leave. Whereas it's interesting you took that sort of that angle. Was there anything you did in particular on the personality side? Anything you can share in terms of either prompting techniques or any exercises that you might have went through in order to define what that personality should be like?
Yeah, we really partnered with our brand advocates at True Classics. So we have a very strong brand tone. And we utilize like our ad personalities, our personalities from our videos that we film, and built that into our chatbot. So it's kind of always just been our brand persona, and we used that. But you have to kind of play around with it because we would be like, oh, we are looking for like a witty male tone in this age range, and then it would get almost too relaxed. And so you'd have to be like, okay, there's a keyword in there that's not going in the way that we were expecting it to. So you do have to play around with the keywords a little bit because generative AI will take the word playful and like go to the extreme on it. So you have to have like, this is how you can respond. Let's make sure we stay away from these words. So kind of plug and play and constantly test your AI.
Yeah. It's the continuous iterative development cycle, isn't it, that you've kind of got to get through to make sure you can optimize it effectively. That's really interesting. You mentioned two other things there. You mentioned email and phone. Is this the same solution? You've just bolted on some extra channels, or is there anything different you're doing on email and phone?
So email is our same solution as our chatbot. They're both using the generative AI. They're using the same tools. Phones is a little bit different. We went with a completely different AI that layers into the help desk. Um, and phones is unique, I will say, because while you can humanize a bot on the phone, it's never going to sound exactly like a human. There's still like those longer pauses, and the voice you can tell while it's like a female voice, it has a little bit more robotics to it. So some of that conversational piece is a little bit harder on phones. And it's still evolving, but it's definitely the newest AI piece that we're learning how to use.
Mm. And what are the use cases there then? Is it the same use cases that the chat and stuff cover? It's still like, where is my order and those type of things, or is there anything different that it's doing?
No, it's still using the same use cases. So where's my order? How do I return? It automatically transfers if it can sense escalation in a customer's voice, or if a customer has called in more than once, it's going to try to transfer them to a human to avoid escalations.
Right. So you've got a different technical solution because obviously the mechanics around voice are different. You've got speech to text and text to speech to worry about and all that kind of stuff. You've got the conversation mechanics themselves to care about, which are different because people can't put you on hold in a chat, whereas
Right. Right.
you don't overhear them telling the dog to shut up in a chat. So that makes sense. And then the numbers you referred to earlier on, I think you said something like, payroll reduction. And I think you said increase in satisfaction, increase in efficiency. Were you including these two solutions in those numbers, or have these two solutions contributed in a different way?
These two numbers do contribute to those overall numbers that I shared.
Okay.
Yeah. So Phones was an interesting channel because I never expected phones to take off in the way that it did. I thought we, as a society, were kind of over phones. We didn't really use them anymore. And we decided just to test phones overall, like even offering a phone number, and it ended up blowing up. And we were getting hundreds of calls a day. And that's where the AI solution came into play because we were like, okay, we need something that can help us. So the nice thing about our phones is that it can also transfer them to an email. So it can ask, would you like to talk to somebody via email? Can we text you with the link so that you can fill this out yourself? And that is where it's been really nice, but it was included in those numbers that I provided.
Interesting. That's an interesting option. So you launched the phone number first without AI. Is that what you're saying?
Correct. Yes.
Right. And then because of it, people were started using it, you then introduced AI to manage the demand.
Yes.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, the phone is an interesting area. It seems to be having a bit of a resurgence now as well, which, for us, VUX, the reason why the company was called VUX in the first place is voice user experience. That was where it all started for us, was designing voice experiences. And then it kind of quietened down a little bit. I think maybe the NLU based bots were probably not as sophisticated. And so, a lot of work used to go into designing those telephone agents. But these days, it's not that it's insignificant, because obviously, you've touched on a couple of the things that, maybe caught you off guard and you expected it to be quicker, but it takes a lot of work to actually get these things working, even more on the voice channel because of those things that we'd mentioned. So it's still not trivial, but at least now the experience you can create is really good compared to what it used to be like.
Right. Yes.
Interesting. So what's next then? You've got emails working well, you've got chat working well, you've got phone working well. Where do you go from here?
I would still like to continue building a more intuitive sales chatbot. And with this, we are talking with other vendors out there because I definitely think it is something that's going to add into our help desk and not necessarily be native to our help desk. But we offer such a wide range of a catalog. We have so many different products that I want something that can really help our customers figure out, like, what else can they add into their cart? Like what item is going to be best for their lifestyle? So really building out this like personal shopper chatbot piece, I think, is what I'm going to be focused on going forward.
Nice. And if you could do anything differently over the last 2.5 years since you started incorporating generative AI, if you could do anything differently, what would that be?
Get it sooner. I really think we were all very apprehensive when AI first came to customer support, but I wish I would have advocated for it even sooner. And I wish I would have thought through all of the positive things that AI was going to bring to the customer journey.
Interesting. That's very interesting. And then maybe an interesting question as well is, because you're dealing with a lot of these technologies, you mentioned there that the voice on the phone is still a little bit robotic, and I've noticed that the voices these days are really good. They're still not infallible. You can still, I think you can still tell, and even the VO3, Google's new image video generation models and stuff like that, where they're generating the audio with the video. And there's been a lot of stuff going around. I don't know if you've seen it on LinkedIn and all that kind of stuff, but there's a lot of stuff going around these videos that are being generated with lifelike people, and they're talking and the lips are in sync and stuff. And it's absolutely fantastic. Do not get me wrong. It is absolutely brilliant, the fact that you can generate these types of videos. It's mind-blowing, really. But having said that, you can still tell the voices are still not ideal. Now, I don't necessarily think that you need human indistinguishable voices. I think there's also actually an argument for going the other way, which is to be purposefully robotic in a kind of like what is it, the Star Wars, my kids into Star Wars these days, C-3PO, is it, the Star Wars robot who can talk? If you go down that route, I think is an interesting option. But yeah, so what are the things, based on where the technology is today, what you're using today, what are the things that are either exciting you in terms of the technology developing or use case development, or like what are the things that you're really sort of like, really exciting you on the technology front?
I agree with you. I think that voice and imagery AI transparently can be like a little bit creepy,
Mm.
but I am excited to be able to use that. So we've looked into this using like our senior leadership team as kind of a talking point on our site for our customers. And I think that it could be a really great way to kind of engage. And so we've talked about using it as like a, again, like a product suggestion tool, where our founder is on the site, like asking these questions. And of course, it's AI, like our founder cannot sit on the site all day long and answer questions. But I do see the potential as it continues to grow and be modified. I think that I'm excited to see real people get used versus just adding in random people. So, like people that are important to the brand versus just pulling a Google image and using that. Um, I think that there's some exciting things that can be done there.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree, definitely. There's lots of companies who are doing some really good stuff, like Unique Digital Humans and Synthesia and companies like that are doing some good stuff. But it's always been at Sapient X, I think is the one. It's always been very difficult though to get an avatar that has all of the mechanics that you need and that is kind of fluent in the generative AI sense, because it's easy enough if you pre-script everything, but as we've discussed, the pre-scripted kind of conversations are not, as conversational and human like. So you kind of need a generative model that you can train based on the CEO or whatever. I'd like one for us, I tried to do this before, like just to create an avatar of me, and then all the articles that we write, you could just have me there reading them out, or you can ask questions about it and I'd answer them and stuff like that. But it's just been a struggle to get the technology working. Voices are actually fine. I've got a really good sounding voice now with 11 Labs. That's sounding really good. It's just the imagery
Yeah.
that's missing.
Yeah. It's the movement. Like I feel like we still struggle to make the movements feel human like when you're watching somebody on a screen. Like it
Yeah.
still is a little bit, you can be like, oh, that doesn't look real.
Yeah, they're not spot on, but anyway, yeah. Anyway, Jordan, thank you so much. This has been absolutely fantastic. Really, really interesting conversation. I love the fact that your proven value, getting value from this technology in the real world, which is what this podcast is all about, figuring out how to make this stuff work in the real world. I think that being ambitious and bold and putting generative AI on the front end is absolutely the way to go. So I think you're proving there that if you be ambitious and you focus on the end customer, you can accomplish some really good results. As well as I think the lessons there for those that haven't gone through this process yet, if you haven't heard me banging on about it before on this podcast, is that whole approach to continuous improvement and really embracing the fact that you've now got a new teammate and that new teammate needs constant nurturing, constant improvement. And through doing that and through iterating over time, you end up with a suite of solutions like you've got email, phone, and all of those things contributing positively to the business. So it's a really, really great story, and I appreciate you joining me to tell it.
Thank you for having me, Kane.
Appreciate it. Nice one. And thank you all for tuning in. We'll see you on the next one. Same bat time, same bat channel. See you soon. Thanks very much. Bye now.